Alright, let's do this. Ninjago is a very important show to me, and it will forever hold a very special place in my heart. The show has some seasons that I don't like or don't really care about, like for example, Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu. I think it's a bad season, but I don't hate it. There isn't a single season of the show that I outright hate, or at least that was the case. Ninjago Season 15, better known as Crystalized, is one of the worst things I have ever watched. The season contains multiple continuity errors, character assassinations, redeems characters that absolutely should not have been redeemed, and brings back characters that didn't need to come back, misuses multiple characters, and even more. I have read bad smut that has had better writing than this season. I have so much hatred for Crystalized, and I didn't know what to do with it, but then I got the idea to make a video about it.
Ha! Capital idea!
I have been putting off making this video for a while, mainly because in order to make the video, I would actually have to rewatch the season, and that was the last thing I ever wanted to do. But I did want to make this video, so I finally got around to rewatching it. Now, please note this is not necessarily a hate video. I mean, I do complain a lot in this video, but I will give credit where it is due, because this season does have some good stuff in it. It's just that the majority of it sucks. If you are a Crystalized fan, I think you might be mentally deranged, but hey, I respect your opinion. You're allowed to like it, but just know that I will be tearing it to shreds in this video. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I know it's going to be however long it needs to. So without further ado, this is how Ninjago Crystalized ruined everything. And yes, I know that's a bit of a clickbaity title, but it sounds good, so shut up. Now, an opinion I hear a lot about this season is that Part 1 is good, but Part 2 is bad. I do not share this opinion. In fact, I very much disagree with it. I think both Parts 1 and 2 are bad, but Part 2 is worse. You really can't see how bad Part 1 is upon first viewing it, because you assume the writers know what they're doing, but they don't. And then Part 2 pounces on you, and you finally realize what's going on. We start with our first episode of the season, Farewell of the Sea. After the events of Seabound, Nia, for all intents and purposes, is dead, and has become one with the sea, and this season takes place 1 year after all of that has happened. I have to say, Seabound is my absolute favorite season of the show. It used to be Skybound, but after rewatching the entire series, Skybound has moved to my second place. The reason I'm bringing all this stuff is because Crystalized ruined Seabound's amazing ending, but we will get to that when we get to that. Going into Crystalized, there was a lot of different places the writers could have taken the story. One of my personal favorites is that Notakon could have returned, and using Jay's grief, he could have gotten him to wish for something really stupid, and things could have gone horribly wrong. This would have made sense because of all the constant Teapot of Tyran appearances that have been going on throughout the past few seasons, and actually continue in this season, but that is not what the season does, and what we do get is a lot worse. This season concluded the Vengestone buyer storyline that has been going on for the past few seasons. We start with a group of thugs smuggling some of the stuff before the new ninja show up to stop them. Now, the new ninja are actually a pretty good idea. Having new ninjas show up that were either inspired or thought they could do better than the old ninja is interesting, but the show doesn't do anything with them, so it's just a waste of potential. We barely even know anything about them. By the second half of the season, the new ninja are just completely forgotten about. One nice thing I will say is that I actually really like Misdemeanor. She's a really funny, smaller villain, and she's way better than someone of the likes of the Mechanic. I really wish she showed up more, although she did show up in Seabound first, but whatever. The new ninja tried fighting off the thugs, but the thugs escaped. This episode acts very similarly to the first episode of Tournament of Elements. We all see how the ninja are grieving after Nia's loss. In all honesty, it's a pretty good first episode, or at least it would be. Let me explain. Zane turned his emotion meter off. Lou's trying to find some way to bring Nia back. Lloyd blames himself for what happened to Nia as the leader of the team, and Kai is teaching a bunch of really toxic things to children. And Jay is, well, he's Jay. Cole is really the only sensible one here, as he brings the team back together to look into the Vengestone stuff going on. Reminds me of how he kind of used to be the old team leader. Now, all of this stuff is really good and could have been really interesting to explore, but the problem is that it isn't. Almost all of this stuff is completely forgotten about after the first episode of the season. Oh yeah, and Benthamar is completely written out of the show, just like most side characters are after the season they star in.
Even Benthamar has given up hope to find her. He sent a message that he's returned to rule Merlopia. Good for him, I guess.
Also, the ninja go to Dr. Julian's lighthouse and Echo Zane just isn't there for some reason. Now, let's move on to the second episode of Crystalized, and just like every episode this season, I hate it. In the Seabound finale, Nia merged with the sea, which was something that was said could never be undone. She turned into water, but that wasn't really the problem. The part that was the tragedy was that she wasn't herself anymore.
Nia was like an entirely different being.
Even if she wasn't technically dead, the old Nia was. This episode completely undoes Nia's sacrifice. Yeah, one episode has passed since she sacrificed herself, and they already undid it. If it was up to me, Nia never would have come back after Seabound, as Seabound was the perfect conclusion to her character, but I realized that LEGO probably wouldn't like the show permanently getting rid of her, so if they had to bring her back, there were ways they could have done it well. The entire season should have been about getting her back after her massive sacrifice. This should not have been something that was undone one fucking episode later. Hi, post-editing Luke here. So while I was making this video, I rewatched the Seabound finale, and in that finale, after Nia merges with the sea, she said that she wouldn't forget her friends, but in Crystalized, she has completely forgotten them. So that's just another continuity error we can add to the list that Crystalized has. After somebody mentions her name and she reads a note about Jay, Nia completely remembers everything and sets out to go find her friends because apparently that's all it took to undo her sacrifice. The ninja go fight some guys selling Vengestone but are saved by the new ninja when they get in trouble. The commissioner then completely ignores the ninja despite not having seen them for a year and stating in the last season that they were friends. Although to give the commissioner some credit, later in the season when he hears that they escaped prison, he is actually happy about it. Back at the monastery, Jay and Kai start fighting because of Jay's grief, and then Nia shows up. Jay and Kai fighting is something that could have been really interesting, but it's never brought up again after this episode, and was really only put in for the trailers. Zane then freezes Nia so she can keep her form, and they figure out that they need to drain her elemental powers to return her to normal. Cole says that draining a ninja's elemental power is impossible, even though he should know it is not, as all of them have lost their powers multiple times, but whatever. Anyway, they plan to get Aspira to drain Nia's powers. The ninja asks the mayor to let Aspira out of prison for a brief time so she can drain Nia's powers, but he refuses, saying that letting her out would be very dangerous as she is one of the worst villains the city has ever faced, even though that's really not true. I mean, yeah, she's dangerous, but compared to a lot of other Ninjago villains, she's a baby. Chen, Moro, the Omega, Calamar, Harumi, all much worse than the Aspira, and those are only a few examples. Since the mayor said no, the ninja have to break Aspira out of prison, but Wu detests this. Wu is super out of character this season. He would rather follow the law than save somebody he loves and is known for the past 15 seasons. Lloyd calls Skylar to keep Nia frozen while they are gone, and they successfully break Aspira out of prison, and they are able to get her staff, but they are discovered as they are stealing it. And then Aspira drains Nia's power.
Follow it, and you'll be out in 10 minutes.
You're actually keeping your word? Will wonders never cease?
When I first watched this episode, I thought this was supposed to be set up for Aspira possibly getting a redemption arc, but then the ending of the episode completely threw that thought out the window.
You are invited to join the Council of the Crystal King and have your revenge upon those who wronged you. Do you accept?
How can I say no to an offer like that? Revenge! Revenge! Revenge!
With Nia's powers drained, she is returned back to normal, but the ninja are caught and are sentenced to 5 years in Cryptarian prison. But considering that they could have spent life, that isn't really that bad. So this season has a prison arc, which is the second time this has happened in Ninjago history, the first being in Skybound. The prison arc in Skybound is basically everybody's least favorite thing about that season, and while I do agree it is the weakest part of Skybound, it is not nearly as bad as people say it is. It only lasts one episode, and the prison arc furthers the plot. The prison arc in Crystalized is way worse than it was in Skybound. I'm not sure why the writers thought it would be a good idea to do the prison thing again, considering everyone hated it the first time, but whatever. It's also really weird how Jay doesn't mention how they've been to prison before. Yeah, most of the ninja don't remember the events of Skybound, but Jay does, so it just kind of feels weird that he wouldn't mention about them going to prison again. I don't know, it just felt weird to me. Oh, and speaking of the Skybound prison arc, when the ninja were in prison, they had Vengestone handcuffs, so then they couldn't use their powers to escape. However, those Vengestone handcuffs are nowhere to be found in Crystalized for some reason, so the ninja can use their powers in prison and escape whenever they want, and they just choose not to so that the plot can happen. Isn't that convenient? One nice thing I will say about the prison arc in Crystalized is that it does have the best joke in the entire series.
How can you be so calm about this?
You know full well he turned off his emotion meter, Jay.
Well, it would be nice to get a human reaction once in a while.
If it would make you feel better, I can switch it on again and react appropriately.
It might actually.
While the ninja are in prison, they talk to Ronin, and this isn't really a problem with Crystalized, more just the show in general, but the writers have no idea what to do with Ronin. I swear, he switches sides like every season. You could argue that's the point, and that you never know what side he's going to be on, but it doesn't feel that way, and it just feels like, yeah, the writers don't know what to do with him. Oh, and Wu continues to be a dick in this episode.
The ninja have no one to blame but themselves.
How can you say that?
Nia, I understand why they did what they did. And frankly, part of me is glad. But it does not change the facts. They broke the law and freed Asphira. She is now loose.
Wu, you're just an asshole. Oh, yeah, but to balance that out, I do really like this exchange Lloyd has with one of the guards.
Hey, I just wanted to say, me and a lot of the other guys really respect what you've done for Ninjago.
Thank you.
It's not personal. We're just following the law, you know?
I know, officer. We're not gonna make any trouble.
Thanks.
Although that moment is kind of undercut when that same guard refuses to listen to Lloyd when he tries warning them about the creepy guy in the mask. Oh yeah, Lloyd gets a visitor in prison and it's this mysterious figure in a mask, so I guess these guards just let this mysterious killer looking guy into the prison without any second thought. Yeah, and this mysterious looking guy is Harumi, which I have a lot to say about, but that is for later. Nia starts going through a bit of a crisis because she isn't able to talk to the ninja for legal reasons, and she blames herself for them being in prison, and she lost her powers. So she gets the idea to become Samurai X again, which is something that could have been interesting, but isn't. Pixel is Samurai X now, but apparently she has no problem just giving the title back to Nia, even though Nia gave it to her. It could have been really interesting to see Nia and Pixel disagree about this, but that doesn't happen, because that would have been interesting. Anyway, meanwhile, in prison, the ninja run into a familiar face.
Well, looky here.
Pythor?
You do-gooders got locked up with all the baddies you put away. Ironic, isn't it?
Laugh it up, Pythor, but you're stuck in here too.
Yes, I got busted by the new ninja, who are so much better than you ever were, by the way.
I hate this. Pythor hasn't been seen in the show since Day of the fucking Departed, and this is how you bring him back? For years, I've been wondering where Pythor was and what he's been doing in the shadows this whole time and what he was planning. Well, apparently nothing. Him getting captured off-screen by the new ninja and then put in prison was the worst possible way they could have brought him back. He deserved better than this. On the bright side, Pythor's personality is good this season, and he wasn't ruined like a lot of other characters were. The ninja and some other prisoners are taken on a bus to go pick up some trash on the side of the road, and Nia and Dareth help them escape. Oh, and Fugidove is here. I hate Fugidove. I hate everything about him, and he has a super annoying voice. I hate everything about him. He has appeared in a few seasons prior to Crystalized, but he is at his worst in Crystalized, where he appears in the most episodes. I remember the first time I watched Crystalized, I was literally screaming at my TV for Jay to just murder him because he was that annoying. I think he is easily the worst Ninjago character to ever be created. Anyway, the ninja eventually meet this girl named Sally, and Sally is great. I wish she appeared in more episodes because she's one of the best characters in the season, but she's only in the one episode. I mean, she's technically in a few other episodes, but she's a background character and has no lines, so that doesn't really count. Her song Inner Steel is great, really nice and catchy. The Crystalized Whip is also fantastic, but that's probably something I should have mentioned in the beginning, but whatever. Anyway, Sally teaches Zane that it's best to feel his emotions, which is a lesson I feel like Zane has learned like 5 times now, but whatever. And I'm about to go on a bit of a tangent, so please bear with me. I think one of Ninjago's problems is that instead of actually trying to tie up loose threads, it brings back characters and storylines that had ended and didn't need to come back. Rumi should have stayed dead. Her ending in Hunted was perfect. It also doesn't help that they completely ruined her in Crystalized, but again, we will get to that. The Overlord also didn't need to come back. He's just your stereotypical dark evil Overlord type character, and I think that worked well enough when the show was younger, but the show is just so much better than that now, that he just feels lame. Aspira, the Skull Sorcerer, and the Mechanic didn't need to come back either. Everybody was fine where their stories ended with them just being in prison. Not to mention that the Mechanic is a C-tier villain at best. The only exceptions are Pythor and Mr. E, and we still have no idea who Mr. E even was, and I really wish they kept him as Echo Zane, so bringing him back could have been interesting, but he literally does nothing in Crystalized, and it's technically not even the same character. Ninjago's problem is that instead of tying up loose ends like the Time Twins or Nauticon, it creates new threads from old things that didn't need to happen. The only exception, again, is Mr. E and Pythor, but they didn't do those things justice in Crystalized. Garmadon is the only loose thread that I think Crystalized handled decently well. Anyway, back to discussing what actually happens in the show. The ninja come up with a plan to find out who the next villain is going to join the Crystal Council is, and they replace them. They discuss candidates and bring up Garmadon, but Lloyd says that nobody has any idea where his dad is. But considering the story Garmadon tells us later in the season, that makes literally no sense. Yeah, guys, whoa, it's a real mystery where Garmadon is. No one has seen him in months. Whoa, well, where could he be? It's not like he's right in the fucking city, just walking around. The ninja decide to go after the Mechanic, which is really stupid. The Mechanic is a terrible villain and does not deserve to be in the same league as fucking Pythor, but whatever. Lloyd impersonates the Mechanic and makes his way to the base of the Crystal Council. Oh, and the pathway to the Crystal Council's secret hideout is behind this brick wall, which makes no sense because Zane scanned that wall earlier in the season and said there were no mechanisms or anything and it was just a wall.
Scans detect no hinges or mechanisms of any kind.
It is also just now occurring to me that I kinda didn't mention all of the stuff about how the ninja found out about the Crystal Council in the first place, and that's mainly because I don't have a lot to say about it, and I'm assuming everyone watching this video has already seen the season, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, the Crystal Council consists of Pythor, the Mechanic, Aspira, Mr. F, who does nothing of importance the entire season, and Vangelis. Honestly, the only great villain in the entire group is Pythor. Pythor is the only one that deserves to be here. Anyway, considering the fact that Echo Zane just didn't show up when the ninja were at Dr. Julian's lighthouse earlier in the season, I thought the writers were going to revisit the idea of Echo Zane being Mr. E, but no, that never happens. Mr. E is just as useless as his original model. They were originally planning to bring Nauticon back and have him be a part of the council, and thank God they did not do that. This season already does so much wrong that if they ruined Nauticon too, I don't think I would have been able to survive that. The council finds out that Lloyd isn't the real Mechanic, and we get the reveal that left me shocked. Now, apparently everybody else saw this coming because it got leaked in the sets or something, but this was a complete shock to me. I don't look at the sets or anything. Now, I have a lot to say about Harumi in this season, and now I can finally talk about her. Harumi in the Oni trilogy was one of Ninjago's best villains. She was my second favorite villain after Nauticon. Harumi's parents were killed by the Great Devourer all the way back in Rise of the Snakes. She became an orphan but was adopted by Ninjago's royal family. Lord Garmadon was the one that defeated the Great Devourer, so she ended up idolizing him and hated the ninja for not stopping the Devourer. She started a cult to bring Garmadon back from the departed realm, but only the Oni part of him. She wanted to cause Lloyd as much emotional pain as possible. She made Lloyd fall in love with her only to give him the ultimate stab in the back. This would all come to an end in Hunted. Harumi was on top of a building and saved a family, making sure that none of them would end up like her. But then she became trapped on top of the building, and then the building fell on top of her and she died as Lloyd watched. Harumi's death in Hunted was immaculate, the perfect end to her character, and then Crystalized had to go and fuck it all up. So it turns out after Harumi died by the building falling on her, the Overlord resurrected her, because I guess that's just a thing he can do. The Overlord calls himself the Crystal King for some reason. I'm not really sure where the whole crystals come in, like that was never a thing with him previously. I don't know. I guess it's just a name he likes. Anyway, Harumi decided to start serving the Overlord, who is the Ninjago universe's version of Satan, because he gave a cool speech.
You're the Overlord!
I have had many names. Dark Lord, Golden Master, Crystal King, and yes, Overlord.
I can't serve you. You'll destroy everything!
Destruction comes from conflict, from the eternal struggle between light and dark. I will end that struggle. If you serve me, I will destroy the balance and end the conflict once and for all. There will be peace in the dark.
I will serve you.
Harumi was getting a lot of her Venge Stone from Shintaro, where she would pay Vangelis for it. Problem is that makes no sense. Where is Harumi getting all this money from? Yeah, she was a princess, but she is literally a terrorist now. I don't think the bank is gonna let her have access to her money. Oh, and the crystal spider robot things were foreshadowing for the buyer being her, which I will admit is kind of cool foreshadowing that I didn't pick up on. Harumi's character in Crystalized is a completely assassinated. The writers could not decide for the life of them what direction to take her character in, so she changes personalities like every few episodes. I will show you an example of them when they come up. Also, Harumi apparently has no problem working with Pythor, you know, the person who literally released the Great Devourer. Pythor and what he did is very public knowledge to the residents of Ninjago City. There is a statue of him literally at the Ninjago Museum, so this makes no sense. So yeah, Crystalized managed to ruin one of the series' best villains. Crystalized also makes the decision to bring the Overlord back, which is another thing I really don't like. I've never been the biggest fan of the Overlord, and his story was fine where it ended and rebooted with Zane's sacrifice. Bringing him back again undermines Zane's sacrifice, which was one of the most emotional moments in the entire series. In fact, the Overlord doesn't even mention Zane at all. You would think he would want revenge on Zane because he was the one who defeated him, but no, he apparently doesn't care at all. The season doesn't mention Rebooted nearly as much as it should, considering it was the last time the Overlord showed up. Another thing they never mention is how Pythor used to work for the Overlord, and is now working for him again. I know some of this stuff may seem minor, but this stuff adds up, and it's weird that these things aren't mentioned despite being relevant. The Overlord's entire gimmick this season of peace in the dark is actually interesting. Instead of him just being the embodiment of evil, having him see himself as kind of the good guy and wanting to break the constant fight between light and dark, and just have one of the two destroy the other is interesting. The problem is that that was a fucking lie. The Overlord only said that to get Harumi to join him, thus throwing out that interesting concept. This season also establishes that the Overlord can never die, and he will always come back, so it doesn't matter how many times the ninja defeat him, he's always gonna come back, which means he's probably gonna win eventually. So yeah, I hate that. The ninja also have basically no reaction to hearing the Overlord is back. They have much more of a reaction to Harumi being back.
Before the end, I promised to deliver a message from an old friend. Harumi sends her farewell.
Harumi? But I know who's behind it. Harumi.
Harumi?
How is that possible?
I don't know. Somehow, she's back.
It makes sense why the ninja would have a reaction to her being back, since they all thought she died, so that makes sense. But it's just weird they don't have a reaction to the Overlord being back, who again is like the embodiment of evil, who they thought they killed twice. The only person who has a reaction to the Overlord being back is Cyrus Borg.
It's a full-scale invasion by the Overlord.
The Overlord? Oh, no.
But I mean, considering what the Overlord did to him, that's valid.
No, don't. Let me go. No, please, no more.
Anyway, you would really think the ninja would have more of a reaction to him being back, especially Zane, since, you know, he blew himself up to defeat him, but no, they just don't. Oh yeah, and notice how I haven't mentioned Nia in a while? Yeah, that is because the season barely does anything with her. They went through the trouble to bring her back and completely undo Seabound's incredible ending, just to barely do anything with her. Fantastic.
Rumi, I know you think I failed you, and you're angry with me.
If by failed you mean didn't save my life and let a building fall on me, then yes, I admit I was a little ticked about that.
Harumi, what the fuck are you talking about? Lloyd was on the other side of the fucking city. What was he gonna do about it? What is this writing?
That's the spirit, just like your father. Anger makes you stronger.
Again, Harumi, what are you talking about? Conflict and the fight is what fuels Garmadon, not anger. The members of the Crystal Council go to the monastery and steal the golden weapons, and they end up fighting Wu, Pixel, Nia, and Skylar, and this is one of the best parts of the season. This is probably the greatest fight scene in the entire franchise. Dragon's Rising Season 2 also has some really good fight scenes that might overtake this, I'm not 100% sure yet, but this is an incredible fight scene. The villains take the golden weapons and destroy the monastery, and holy shit, we're only halfway through this fucking season. Why does this season have so many episodes? It's painful.
Oh, cursed ramen, why have I so little left? Oh, cursed ramen, I am on a noodle quest. Hey!
I hate how flanderized Jay has become over the years. He used to be actually funny, and now he's just annoying. Jay from Skybound and Jay from the later seasons are two completely different characters.
Let's get back to the monastery. I need to change my pants.
With the monastery destroyed, the ninja go to a new old base, Nia's old Samurai X cave, a location that hasn't been seen since Hands of Time. When I first watched this season, I thought they were going to go back to the Temple of Erjitsu, which was their base in Hands of Time, and then it was just forgotten about. But it is cool to see the Samurai X cave again. I just think it would have been a bit cooler to see the Erjitsu temple, but whatever. The Overlord makes a villain base, which is the Oni temple from Sons of Garmadon, and it starts to fly, and he creates an army of Vengestone warriors. There is really no reason for the base to be the Oni temple, it just is because fan service, I guess. Harumi says that she doesn't want to destroy Lloyd and that she wants him to join the villains, so Lloyd decides to suicide jump hundreds of feet out of the sky and drags Harumi with him, and they both miraculously survive because of plot armor. Also, I just want to say that Vangelis can fly, so there's no reason for him not to go after them here.
Jump after them, you fools!
I ain't jumping, you jump!
Harumi, despite previously saying she wanted Lloyd to join her and didn't want to kill him, pulls this shit. This is what I meant when I said the writers couldn't decide what they wanted to do with her. Lloyd is saved by his friends on the bounty, and Harumi returns to the Overlord, and then we get this god-awful scene.
You should have destroyed him when you had the chance, but I see now that you still have feelings for him.
That's not true! I hate—
Silence!
Okay, this is just embarrassing. Harumi never had feelings for Lloyd. That was the entire point of Sons of Garmadon. Harumi was emotionally manipulating him in order to hurt him. Sons of Garmadon made this very obvious, yet Crystalized still somehow missed the memo.
Let her go! This is between us!
No, Lloyd. There was never anything between us. It hurts, doesn't it? There's nothing more powerful than a blow to the heart.
Vengestone army starts marching around Ninjago, and whoever they touch turns into a crystal zombie. So yeah, Ninjago's doing zombies now, I guess. This is where we get the reveal that the Overlord can never actually die, but I've already established how I hate that. We also get the reveal that Wu knew he was coming back, but just never thought to say anything.
I still don't understand how the Overlord can just return like that. He was destroyed.
The Overlord cannot be destroyed. Not really. He is the embodiment of evil. He's fed by anger, hatred, and conflict. As they build up over time, he gains in strength and ultimately takes form again.
You knew he would return?
I feared it, one day. But I would not have expected him for several generations.
So we have Moro, the Time Twins, Aspira, the Overlord coming back, and the Merge, all things Wu knew about but never thought to mention. Wu says that somebody has been sending him newspaper clippings for months, and that wasn't foreshadowed at all, except very minorly with Wu getting mail earlier in the season. They go see who's been sending him the newspaper clippings, and we find out that person was Garmadon. Garmadon is one of the best parts of this season. Him, Vinny, and the stout with his plants, they're all great, even if it does bring us this really annoying continuity error.
I'm bad, maybe.
When I was resurrected from the Cursed Realm.
He was resurrected from the Departed Realm. The ninja destroyed the Cursed Realm in possession. Ninjago has never had perfect continuity. There's always been some continuity errors, but whenever they show up, you are usually just able to brush them aside. But Crystalized just has so many that it's just not possible to do that. They find out Garmadon's Oni powers destroy the Vengestone warriors, so they come up with a plan for Lloyd to unlock his Oni side to help defeat them. Wu is also part Oni, but they don't think to have him unlock his Oni side because the writers didn't think of that. Also, remember how earlier in the season, Kai was really messed up because of his grieving for Nia? Well, this is his only interaction with Nia in the entire season.
I shall do my best to be a kind and patient teacher to Lloyd. This is terrible! Spin!
What happened to kind and patient?
Yeah, that's just sad. And we never get to see Kai and Nia's parents' reaction to finding out their daughter is alive again. They're in the season, but they're background characters and don't have any lines, which is especially weird considering that they had a lot more of a spotlight in the last season.
Master Wu, is that the golden armor?
Yes.
That is not the golden armor. The golden armor was made out of the golden weapons and rebooted, and was worn by the Overlord. The golden armor was then melted down and recreated into the golden weapons in March of the Oni. What Wu is actually wearing is the dragon armor minus the helmet, which he got from the first realm and hunted. So long story short, the ninja try to defeat the Overlord and they lose, and we get this well-animated fight scene against Wu and the Overlord, and a lot of people think this is where Wu should have died, and I kind of agree. Wu has not been needed in seasons, and Dragon's Risings proves that. He has not been in Dragon's Rising at all besides some flashbacks and stuff, and the show works perfectly fine without him. So I have no problem with Wu dying, but I don't know if I would have wanted him to die in the worst season of the show. But yeah, he probably should have died here. Something I would like to touch on again is the Council of the Crystal King. The entire appeal of a villain team-up is the first place is seeing all of the different villains interact, but the Crystal Council are just not interesting to see interact. And most of the season, they're not even together. One of the reasons people don't like Day of the Departed is because it's a really cool concept that only had 45 minutes to do anything with it. But despite that, Day of the Departed has like one scene where all the villains are interacting, and that one scene in Day of the Departed is better than every scene the Crystal Council interacts in Crystalized. Crystalized has a ton of villains that nobody cares about. Nobody cares about Aspira, or the Mechanic, or Vangelis. The only one here people care about is Pythor. Masako, who has apparently been at a library all season, meets up with Wu and gives him a paper she found at the library of Domu, which is a library that was first seen in possession. Zane got in a bit of a plane crash and isn't doing so well, and has returned to acting like the Ice Emperor. In Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu, Zane went a little crazy and became the Ice Emperor and became a dictator and did a bunch of bad stuff. Fans have been wanting Zane to have a story about realizing all the terrible things he did as the Ice Emperor and coming to terms with that, but instead we get the Ice Emperor's return here as a joke, so that's just some salt in the wound there. Pixel takes Zane to Borg Tower to get him fixed. Pixel is probably one of the most underutilized characters in the entire franchise. She's been a part of the team since Rebooted, and the show barely ever does anything with her, and she deserves better. Honestly, Pixel deserves her own focus season. Misako is also very underutilized and is also really overhated, but I'm not going to get into that tangent right now. Also, this is a random thing I noticed, but Kilo appears in multiple episodes this season, but he never says a single line. Cyrus Borg fixes Zane, but he's in a coma of sorts, so Pixel gives him this admittedly really cute speech.
Zane, I was once just an android. A machine.
Zane and Pixel saw a bunch of Ninjroids die and then go to the Departed realm in Day of the Departed. It's also a shame that this really great speech Pixel gives is wasted on another fake-out death. Zane wakes up, and Pixel's reaction and seeing them both with each other is really sweet. It's honestly the best part of the season, despite its problems. Compatible now is a really sweet touch. Again, really makes me wish the show would give Pixel more attention because she more than deserves it, but either way, this is still the best part of the season and made me feel the most emotions. Unfortunately, now we have to look at something really bad to even it out. Lloyd and Garmadon go underground to try and find the Serpentine to try and help, and we get this wonderful scene.
You're an Oni. The Oni are incapable of caring. All they do is destroy.
Yeah, remember Mistake, that Oni that was murdered by Garmadon and hunted in order for Lloyd to have a chance at stopping him? Yeah, well, I guess the show doesn't. Oh, but don't worry, things get worse.
You know what? I'm actually glad we bumped into you goons. I've got some frustrations I need to work out. Yeah, that felt good.
You hear that, guys? Lloyd takes pleasure in beating up people he's trying to save. What makes it even worse is that Lloyd thinks Garmadon is going to kill them, which is funny because he was being way more violent than he was.
You're the one who needs to get to NGTV Tower and send a distress call to some queen.
Princess Vanya of Shintaro.
Actually, it is not Princess Vanya. It is Queen. Vanya was made queen at the end of Master of the Mountain. You were literally there, Cole. Now, to be completely fair, this was a mistake that was in Seabound as well, but in Seabound, he said Princess Vanya in a much more casual sense, or as casual as whatever this situation is.
We need to get him to a hospital.
How are we gonna move him with that thing out there hunting us?
Maybe we can get help from Princess Vanya or somebody.
But in Crystalized, when somebody calls her a queen, Cole tells them that they're wrong and she is a princess, which is really stupid. The ninja meet up again and they decipher the paper Misako found as a way to achieve an all-powerful dragon form, and the way they accomplish this is by jumping up, kicking back, whipping around and spinning, so it's just a theme song, which is kind of cool. Lloyd and Garmadon go to face the Overlord, and the Overlord turns into a fucking centaur. I actually like the Overlord's new design this season, but this is the funniest and stupidest shit I have ever seen in this show. Who thought this was intimidating? Anyway, Jay, Cole, Kai, and Zane all turn into their dragon form and start fighting the villains, but Nia doesn't get to have a dragon form because this season seriously disrespects her. Her F is destroyed when a billboard falls on him and all the other villains are captured and sent back to prison. Or at least I would assume they were sent back to prison. We're never seen them getting arrested or anything, but I would assume that's where they went. Oh yeah, and you know how Vangelis was Cole's villain? Well, this is their only interaction in the entire season.
I've longed for the chance to repay you for what you did.
What did I do again?
You stole my throne. Turn my people against me. Turn my own daughter against me.
Oh, that! Yeah, kind of brought that on yourself.
Lies!
Overlord says that he corrupted the Great Devourer and had him bite Garmadon, which has Harumi do a complete 180 and start fighting against him. I mean, all she does is cut off one of his arms that he regenerates immediately, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. Oh, and for one last continuity error, the Overlord misgenders the Great Devourer.
It was I who possessed the serpent that bit your hand. It was I who corrupted the Great Devourer and set him against you.
You?
The Great Devourer is a girl, not a guy. Lloyd thinks that Garmadon died, but it was just another fake-out death, because of course it was. And Lloyd lets out his Oni form for a total of 30 seconds before he sees his reflection and goes back to normal. You hear that, everybody? Just suppress your emotions, because that's what Ninjago is telling you to do. I'm honestly not sure what the show is even supposed to do with Garmadon anymore. I feel like he's had every possible story they could tell with him. He really should have just died here, and then Lloyd could have planted Christopher at the end of the season, and learned that his father really did have some good in him again after all. But no, we don't get that, because we don't get nice things in Crystalized. Anyway, then a dragon shows up and kills the Overlord, and all the Vengestone warriors die, and the crystal zombie people turn back to normal. But remember, it really doesn't matter that they defeated him because he's just gonna come back eventually anyway. I never want to see the Overlord and Ninjago ever again. I would only ever want to see him again if the ninja found a way to kill him for good.
It's okay. She's with us.
Lloyd, what the fuck are you talking about? She has tried to kill you multiple times. She only betrayed the Overlord because of the fucking snake thing. It had nothing to do with him trying to kill you. That is not a redemption arc. And even if it was a redemption arc, it still wouldn't matter. She has committed terrorist attacks, killed people, held people hostage, kidnapped a baby, and overthrew the government. She's getting a death sentence. Life in prison if she's lucky. Oh, whatever. Let's just get the shit over with. Everybody helps rebuild the monastery, and the season ends with one more slap to the face. The song playing while they rebuild the monastery is Inner Steel. Like I said before, I do like Inner Steel, but it is completely the wrong song to play here. The overture would have been 1,000 times better. Also, Harumi is helping them rebuild the monastery, even though there's the whole life in prison thing, but whatever. Oh yeah, and then, yeah, that's the end of this god-awful season. Boy, that was rough. So, Ninjago Crystalized. What the fuck happened? Do you want to know what I felt when I was rewatching this season? All I felt was like I was being drained of my life source. That is what this season makes me feel like. Do you want to know what I was thinking about while watching this season? All of the good Ninjago content I could be watching. Skybound, the Oni trilogy, Seabound, all of those things are incredible. Yet here I was watching the worst season of the entire show. Thank God Dragon's Rising exists, because if the franchise ended on Crystalized, I think I would have cried forever. I do have problems with Dragon's Rising, but overall it is a massive improvement over Crystalized and a breath of fresh air for the franchise. I have hated Crystalized for a long time, and I always knew this was going to be a video I was going to make. I had to. I know Crystalized is a very hated season, and it's for good reason. The writing in this season is objectively horrible. There's no getting around that. Ninjago has had some not great seasons before, but Crystalized is on a whole other level. It's awful. It is a complete dumpster fire, and I am pretty sure it is impossible for this franchise to ever have a season that is worse than Crystalized. This video is honestly a lot shorter than I thought it would be. I could rant about how bad this season is for hours, but I think this is good enough. Now that I have finally made this video, I can rest easy knowing that I never have to watch this god-awful season ever again. Goodbye, Crystalized. Until we meet again, which will hopefully be never.